Welcome to Level Up Tribes. Level Up Tribes provides resources to help you attain the necessary resources to level up your mind, body, and soul and realize your full potential. It is about exploring, learning, providing you with the tools from the experts for you to create a better version of yourself. I am your host, Agnes, and welcome, Tribes. Today, I have the honor to have Shawn Bradford on Level Up Tribes podcast. I met Shawn at Cactus Moon Yoga teacher training last year when I was taking it with my teacher, Megan Cannon. And so I was so excited to learn so much about Yoga Nidra. And so I started following you on Instagram after that, and recently learned that you have this new program out for certified yoga teachers to take. But before I get ahead of myself and talk about that program that you just launched, I want you to talk to us about your journey, your life, and how you ended up in the here and now. So yeah, let's dive in and talk about your journey.
Thank you. And thank you for having me. I was so happy when you asked, and I listened to some of your episodes on iTunes, and it made me even more excited to be on here. So thank you.
Thank you.
It was 7 years ago now. I have 3 kids, and now they're 12, 11, and 9. But at the time they were, my son was just born, my youngest, and the gal that helped me with them, she just stopped me in my tracks one day and she said, "You are so incredibly tightly wound." She's very outspoken. She'd only been working with me for like a month, so I was a little bit taken back. She's like, "You need to do something. Like, I'm worried about your health. This isn't a good thing to teach your kids. You're always doing 20 things at once and you're so ungrounded," which I was like, I don't know what she's talking about. Like, that wasn't my world. So I was like, okay. But she's amazing with my kids. I mean, she made taking care of 3, basically a newborn and 2 toddlers look like a piece of cake. So I was not going to lose her. So I was like, sure, what do you want me to do? And she's like, "Why don't you go try a yoga class?" And I did. And I didn't like it because when you're going so fast all the time, and all of a sudden I felt forced. It wasn't really by choice. I felt forced into like this very slow way of doing something. It was really a shock to my system. And that voice in my head was so just critical. Like, what are you doing? You have 1,000 things at home to do. This is ridiculous. And you know what I mean? Because I never laid down for even a few minutes at once with that sort of quiet, right?
Yeah.
That was a nutty way for me to get into yoga. And when I told, her name's Karen, who's now my best friend, and I told her about this, she's like, "Why don't you try something at your gym? Check the kids in, try something there." And I started with like power flows was my entry in. And I liked that, it moved quickly. And my kids were in childcare, which was a treat. And I stuck with that for about a year. Mm-hmm. And then I started getting curious about the other types of yogas and started trying them. And then it was probably, 3 or 4 years later where I had gone through a divorce, had a really hard time sleeping. And now the beauty of Yoga Nidra. It was this like saving grace to me in order to get to sleep because I was just still so wound up. And so once I tried Nidra, I was hooked. And that's what got me in. Yoga Nidra is yoga sleep or psychic sleep for anybody that doesn't know what that is. And it's a really powerful practice that helps you change habits and patterns on a really deep level. I mean, it uproots them. And at the time I was just looking for a solution to sleep, and it was able to get me to sleep, especially when you do that like 2 a.m. wake up, it would get me right back to sleep, which was the biggest gift. Yeah. So I would say then my journey went really deep into yoga once I found Nidra. And then, as you know, I got trained in Nidra. I started teaching Nidra everywhere, studios, anywhere. I've taught Nidra to the, city employees, county employees. I teach it in any kind of yoga workshop I do in businesses. I love it so much. It is a part of anything I do anywhere. So that's my journey.
Yeah, it's a beautiful journey. And it's funny that, I've read and heard that before yoga, you were like type A. Is that correct to say?
I still am, but it balances me. It gives me a little bit of, it lets me come back to that alignment because I can still definitely, to my own devices, I can definitely go there.
Yeah. And when I met you, I mean, your spirit was so calming, so it's come a long way, right? I guess you can say that with Yoga Nidra and all the modalities has really transformed you over the years. And that's the beauty of this practice.
It is. And it just completely my goodness, I used to just bound out of bed, 5:30 in the morning. And the first thing I did was open my laptop and I'd be then on my emails for 12 to 14 hours.
Yeah.
And now the first, I have 3 kids, but I would say at minimum, the first 30 minutes of my day now is totally quiet with meditation, with journaling, with some very gentle movement. If I can stretch it to an hour, I do. So that for me has been the key. And then my evenings are really, it used to be, a glass of wine, falling asleep to TV, which is, again, there's something wrong with these things, but for me, they didn't work. It didn't center me and it didn't work for me. It made me just so unaligned. So now it's like my evenings are just very, they're very quiet. They're more journaling. They're uplifting readings. I always fall asleep to Yoga Nidra as well, because it's just, it just gives me these beautiful dreams too, that I feel like I do a lot of work in my sleep.
Yes.
And so, it just brought me to what I consider this path of self-care. And I think of self-care as just doing whatever you need to keep yourself in balanced, aligned, and feeling good.
Yes, yes. And you touch on Yoga Nidra a little bit. Can you explain Yoga Nidra and the health benefits of it, as well as the different stages that you take your clients into?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll answer that in a few ways. I got so into Yoga Nidra, again, yoga sleep, that I ended up going and getting my master's in health with a very holistic school because I wanted the ability to research meditation. So I did 2 years of research on the benefits of meditation. And a lot of that was Yoga Nidra, because there's been a lot of studies on just Yoga Nidra, tons on meditation. And it's deep. I mean, we got heavy into Nidra. Meditation is so good for stress. And most of our country is hugely stressed, and especially now with COVID, that it leads to so many chronic conditions, and they are such a burden on healthcare, such a horrible thing for people that are living with chronic pain. So Nidra also, that takes me down the path of Nidra really helps to manage pain. Yoga Nidra in studies has shown to really decrease depression, anxiety. It makes us happier. It helps us to just be more flexible within our mind. So instead of being so rigid and this is the way something has to be, it opens our creativity to see all these different paths, higher levels of thinking. And then it also produces all these feel-good chemicals that, of course, help us sleep, but chemicals that help us like dopamine and I think it's DHEA, which is like a youth chemical. So there's so many benefits, whether you're looking for, beauty or sleep or less stress or managing pain or just plain feeling happy. It's basically anything that you want. Nidra is going to give it to you, because what's happening is you're quieting this thinking mind that might be critical, like, oh, I can't do this, or this isn't going to work, or it's judging, it's criticizing. That goes to sleep, and you get out of the thinking body and you wake up the feeling body. So if anybody right now wants to try this, you could just hold your palms up and you start to don't think of your palms as a thinking thing, like, oh, these are my palms, but actually feel them. And as you're feeling your palms, you're just seeing those sensations. And when you're in Nidra, you start to kind of feel these sensations everywhere. And you're so much in a different sort of sensory perception. And you start to really open up different parts of your senses, your brains. You're going to start to see after months of doing Nidra that synchronicities are happening for you, and things that you wanted to happen are happening. Like things really start coming together because you also start to uproot really, really old patterns, either critical thought or bad habits, just things that are keeping you down.
Absolutely. And I mentioned this before we got online about your YouTube videos, all your Yoga Nidra videos, and I have used them. I've used the gratitude one. I did that one like 2 days ago. And it's funny because I normally don't fall asleep, but I actually fell asleep for like 10 minutes.
So which is strange. I actually don't think you fell asleep. So
really?
You will fall asleep if you're tired, or if you're doing it right before bed. But I think you might have actually got to that point of actual meditation where thought is completely gone and there's no time or space now, which is one of a lot of folks say, and I agree, that's where healing happens, like whatever we're really trying to truly transform. So you got to this beautiful spot where no time, no space.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I like that.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for having those resources out there for us to tap into. And I absolutely love them. So thank you. I wanted to share that with you.
You made my day because it's just a reminder of how powerful the practice is. And I believe in it so much.
Yes.
And I hope this conversation has the effect of having more people try Nidra and having these beautiful experiences that you and I have had, because it's raising us up. It's empowering us, which is beautiful.
Yes, absolutely. So let's talk about your recently announced about your corporate yoga YTT. So let's talk about that a little bit. How did that transform? Is this one of those 2020 things that came up for you?
It's interesting. At the very beginning of 2020, and just like the beginning of Q2, we were all in quarantine. And I heard somebody say, hey, don't try to write that book right now. Don't try to start that new project right now. Just regroup. So really, Q1 and Q2 and Q3. So like springtime and summer of 2020, I chilled. I slept. I caught up on sleep. Like I would wake up at the normal time that I would have to get myself ready, get my kids ready, take them to school. And I took that extra hour of sleep because I didn't have to drive them. They were home. And I slept. Any time during the day that I had a break, I went out. And I don't think I ever stared at my lemon tree more than I did in like March, April, May of 2020. I sat out there, and my saving grace too was Karen, who I talked about in the beginning. She was renting my guest house in exchange for childcare to help me with my kids.
Yeah.
So her and I got to quarantine together, which she kept me sane because, now I've got 3 kids at home, and that it was hard.
Yeah.
And luckily she helped with their online school. And we sat out and just had these beautiful conversations for, an hour at a time outside under this beautiful lemon trees with all these bees, buzzing in the flowers. And that's how I really spent the springtime of 2020. And I did not try to start anything new. I barely taught. I really did take a time out because it was a shock, and I did not know what to do with it at first. And I definitely meditated a lot. We went on a lot of walks. I did more cooking than I've done in my entire life.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
And after that though, Q3, summertime, we're like, okay, we need to at least start I started getting back into a little routine, thinking about some things I wanted to create. And it wasn't until maybe September, October of 2020 where it came on so rapidly, where I got this, it'd been every year in my goals, like create a teach corporate yoga class every year, create a course. And I just wasn't quite there yet. And October 2020, I was ready. There had been a lot of meditating, a lot of journaling, a lot of downtime, and the course just came together like this. And it helped as well that starting in probably, I would say, I don't remember exactly, but let's say maybe like June, July of 2020, my corporate clients kind of got out of their whatever they were doing, like, hey, we're probably not going back anytime soon, so we have to transition to online. So I started doing a lot of online yoga teaching and yoga workshops, and I had to get really creative because that looks a little bit different. So I think that me getting creative for my clients combined with having a lot of renewal and downtime, I was ready to just pour my experience, my education, my heart into creating this course because it came together just so easily. Yeah. And I felt like I had a lot of support from just, whatever my non-physical team is. Like, for example, one night I was waning a little bit on my motivation, and I have a lot of dreams, and I do spend time really analyzing them. And one night, and I felt totally cool about this, like somebody I felt really good with, like, gave me a shot. That was my dream. I remember waking up, and what I thought was like, that was like a shot of motivation. And I really woke up feeling kind of renewed to continue to push the course out there. Shaylin, who one of your teachers, she did the anatomy for me because not my strong point. So collaborating with somebody on that portion of my offering, my course, was a big help as well. But also I had that accountability where she had a time frame to get it done. So I had a time frame to complete my part. And it just, end of 2020, it came together, and I announced it, to my world, in quotation marks, the beginning of 2021. And I feel really, really excited about it, passionate, and I guess I'm just going to say proud. That's the word that's coming to me. I feel really proud of it.
Yes, because you've been doing corporate yoga. That was your focus after you were finished with your YTT?
I did because I'm comfortable with that. I mean, I've always done studio and gyms as well, and resorts, but I also jumped immediately, really, like, as even before I had my teaching certificate, because I had a life coaching certificate. So I really kind of used that to start down the wellness corporate workshops. And then, once I got that yoga certificate, I just went in really deep to corporate. And when I talk about corporate yoga, I know we kind of think like, okay, just offering a yoga class, after work to an employee's place. And that's like a pin drop of it. Okay. I really try to get people to think way beyond that and going in during office hours and doing much more simpler things than like a flow class. So we might be talking a chair class. We might be talking breathing solutions, yoga nidra, shorter classes, so that more people are going to come. People don't feel intimidated, because I'm trying to get as much of the office involved, not just the people that already practice yoga.
Okay. Do you let them choose what they want to practice that day, or do you come in to the corporate office and say, well, today this is what we're doing. We're doing chair yoga, or we're doing yoga nidra? Yeah,
that's a great question. So generally speaking, I'm creating. So again, don't get me wrong. There's some places where it's just, okay, for a while I taught for the county. It was just once a week. It was a mat class, and it was somewhat similar to what you'd find in a studio. But what I'm mostly teaching in my course, and generally speaking, I'm working with somebody, let's say an HR person that's been charged with the task of bringing wellness into the office place, and I'm creating a program with them. So it might be 10 weeks at a time, and they're themed. So let's say I'm in an advertising firm, and I have in my course too, I have all these templates, so questionnaires and feedback forms. I'm going to fill out with my client a questionnaire. What are you looking for? What time frame? What do you want your employees to achieve? What are some of the problems we're trying to solve? And then I'm going to have, if my client's willing, the employees fill out a form to see what kind of meditation or yoga they're looking for, or mindfulness solutions. What are their problems? What are their pain areas? And then based on that, I'm working with my client, and this is what I teach in the course, to create an actual custom program. So we're going beyond the scope of just like a yoga class every week to create a custom program. So maybe the first 10-week series is all around creativity because we're in an advertising form. So through yoga techniques, we're teaching the employees how to open up their creativity. And that might look like a little chair yoga with, working out the stress. That might look like some Nidra. It might look like some mindfulness talks on, getting the creativity flowing. And we know through yoga, we're talking about the second chakra here, but I'm not going to say that in a corporate setting. We might do some just like figure 4 stretches, in a chair. We might do some hip circles. We might do some teamwork stuff to talk about out of the box thinking. So it's a little bit different than just the yoga class every week. I like to teach people, and what I do is how to turn these into more like yoga workshops.
Okay. Oh, it's so beautiful because I think now more than ever, that is needed in businesses, right? Because, when this whole thing started, and I'm considered essential employee, so I have to, be there in ground zero. And at one point I was like, I think my life might be in danger. And that did something to my body for a minute. And so I think it's so important for businesses and employers to give this back to their employees because not everybody handles a pandemic the same way.
No. And you know what to do. You know what to do to identify what's going on and you know how to calm yourself down. But a lot of people don't have those tools. They don't know how to do that. So even by us going in for 30 minutes a week and teaching breathing techniques to manage intense stress is so game changing for people, for businesses, because stress is their number one liability. So yeah, you're right on. Like it's affecting all of us. And some of us has the tools and some of us don't. But I want to make yoga something that is a very commonplace in businesses.
Yes. So let me ask you this, Shawn. How did you transition from being in person and then teaching your clients online? Was that hard for you in the beginning when this whole thing happened?
It was. And I've been really fortunate where I've had a lot of the same clients for several years. Okay. And I have to say, they really held my hand. So, I had some funny ones at first where like I want to say one of the first classes, and I know this, but I wasn't even thinking, I had a big picture of Buddha behind me. My corporate settings, I just want a plain wall now. It's something that's in my course, really check out the background. And my client said something like, why don't you have kind of a plain wall next time? I've been so helped by my clients that now it's my turn to pass it on. And so another helping hand they gave me was one of the first times I really fumbled around on whatever conference platform. And so the next time they hired me, they suggested a dress rehearsal. Because the other thing I do a lot of that we can talk about in a minute is event yoga. So conferences.
Yes.
So they helped me with that. Another thing they helped me with, which was so nice, was pricing. One of my clients actually said, you know what, you're doing more now because you're coming on. And now that we've suggested it, you're doing these dress rehearsals first. So you can charge a little bit more. So I've been really, my hand has been held. And it was really my clients that kind of pushed me online because they went online. And I was really grateful for that. And they want, that's the big thing I want to tell yoga teachers. These businesses need solutions to bring employees together. So last week I was doing a yoga workshop and there was a new employee that nobody had ever met in person. And this was one of the first times that they had all met. So the owner of the business messaged me afterwards. She was like, that was amazing. That was so collaborative. So these yoga workshops or classes, if we as yoga teachers design them as team building and collaborative and help people share, it's a beautiful way for coworkers to bond, to get to know each other, especially right now where everybody is not working together.
Exactly. Let's talk about the conferences and the workshops and the events.
So that has been that's the path that I'm mostly traveling down. Now I'm really trying to, I never say this word right, niche. Is that the right word? Niche into? And I love it so much. So kind of like this little known secret that I'm sharing is when I started several years ago, I would suggest to the conference planner, hey, why don't we have like just a short chair yoga session? Everybody in attendance could do it. It's just a break between meetings. And they're like, okay, I'll suggest it. And they've been so popular that these conferences that are year after year will bring me back on. And I started to notice like this is a whole industry in itself doing these wellness, holistic services for conferences because employees are in meetings for 8 hours a day. And you and me have these amazing services that we can do to help break up their day of 8-hour meetings. And that's the path I love because I get to be really creative and propose these different ideas. Like I've done comedy yoga.
Oh, that sounds fun.
Because they want ideas of like, what's going to attract more people to either sign up for the conference or excite them. And that was probably my favorite. And I also know my limitations. So I actually didn't teach. I hired a very witty yoga instructor because that's not me. I'm not like this. So I hired a witty yoga instructor. I just took a class. I hired a local comedian and he crashed the yoga class and they thought he was truly a guest at the resort. And to this day, because I saw them next year, they really thought and it was the funniest thing. I got to, last month, I got to do a whole class with Sedona behind me. So they actually did not want a virtual background. They wanted a real background.
Yes.
And I got to record a class for them in this beautiful background. So there's been a lot of like creative things like that I've gotten to do, self-care workshops that are just fun. They're fun to create. They're fun to, roll out. And it's really fun when people when they're like, this is really cool. And they're talking with each other. They're engaging, they're collaborating. It's really cool to bring them to life. Yes. And online, it really has been very rewarding to help people collaborate together right now.
Okay. It's interesting because I just saw your whole demeanor and body change when you started talking about this new concept.
Thank you it's so cool because I get to come up with these, I get to pull from everything I've learned in yoga. Yeah. And then learn how to make it where it's received by the masses of people that are going to be there, not just a few that might already take yoga. Mm-hmm. And then I get to propose it and then get paid to put on this very creative class. I mean, it's really exciting to me.
Yes, it sounds wonderful. I go to conferences outside of the States and, you're there all day, like you said, and you go from one workshop to another workshop and having something that will kind of just settle you down on that day will be beautiful. So what a great concept. I love it.
Thank you.
Yes. So you're going to talk more in depth in your YTT. Is that something oh, okay.
That's a great question. So yes, I have a 90-page manual, and I really call it a blueprint for first understanding why there's such a need. I really go over a lot of the research about how stress is just crippling, Americans. And then I go into why yoga is such a good solution for stress. And then I go into all the different ways you can bring yoga into business. So whether it's an event, a business retreat, weekly or monthly, or you turn it into different workshops or lunch and learn. So I go really deep into all the offerings. But then what I get super deep into is, all right, so now you know how to design a class, all the do's and don'ts over what, you should be teaching in a corporation and not a studio. What wouldn't fly in a corporation that would in a studio? So we go into myths and do's and don'ts, but then I have a huge section on templates and marketing so that by the time people leave, they have this total blueprint for who to call and what type of businesses are going to hire. And we're going to do scripts and we're going to help make your own list. So you don't just leave with this education okay, what am I supposed to do now? Now I know how to teach and where I want to teach, but who am I going to call? So I'm really going to prep them with, here's a marketing plan. Yeah, you have to go do the work now and make the phone calls and the connections, but I'm going to set them up where it's like, yeah, we've done our research in the course and now we have 50 places we're going to start calling on, and we've researched the industry. We know who we're going to call on, and we practice what we're going to say and repeat until we get that business. And then once we get the business, how we keep the business.
Oh, wow. So that is a blueprint.
I really did want to make a blueprint because I want people to do this. I want yoga to expand into businesses so that it really is a totally normal thing where once we're back in offices, or even if you're on a conference call with your coworkers and somebody's doing alternative nostril breath or rolling out their shoulders or taking a lion's breath, you're like, oh, you're getting yourself prepared for that sales meeting or whatever. Like, that's a normal thing to do.
Yes. Oh, I love it. Are you doing this by yourself? Because, normally I guess you have different teachers to come in during yoga teacher training to speak about different modalities. So are you teaching all of it on your own? I know you mentioned Shaylin.
That's a great question. So the course is 20 hours, not a huge amount of hours. Shaylin's doing 4 of the hours of anatomy. So she is my guest teacher for this. And maybe over time, I'll definitely have other guest teachers. But as I roll out the first few courses, because I'll probably give the course about 6 times throughout 2021, it'll be me and then Shaylin as my guest teacher. And I've pre-recorded her.
Oh, okay. Awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, so everything is going to be online, the whole course.
The whole course is the whole course is online. So no matter where somebody is in the world, they can take it, but it's live. I'm giving 15 hours live and then 5 hours, the bulk of that being Shaylin, is pre-recorded.
Okay, awesome. And this starts when?
It starts, my first one ever starts January 29th, so just in a few days. And I have a handful of people signed up that can't make it live. Mm-hmm. So they'll be getting the recordings for everything. But the nice thing about being live, at least one time, is you get to ask all your questions. Yes. And I get to really customize answers for the individual that has them.
Okay. When is the next one? Do you have an idea?
It'll definitely it'll be March. I don't have a date, but it'll be March. So if somebody can't make, excuse me, the one starting goodness in 5 days, the next one will be in March.
Okay, wonderful. I'm interested in taking it.
Oh, I love it.
I want to work with people that suffer from PTSD and trauma, and yes. I volunteer for an organization for foster children. And so I want to tap into that as well. So I'm taking a trauma YTT. That's why I can't do yours this time around, because that one's coming up. The PTSD piece is mostly with police and fire, mostly police. At my job, what I do now in our department, we manage the disability and retirement of police and fire. And a lot of the cases that we see come in are police officers that need to retire early because they just can't do their job anymore because of PTSD and that trauma. And so, just listening to their stories at the meetings is really heartbreaking. So that's something, not now, but in the future, I do want to tap into. And I know your program says corporate, but would public service be considered as a corporate YTT? Like,
Agnes, so yeah, I'm going to answer that in a couple of ways. When I talk about corporations, basically I'm talking about anywhere but a studio and anywhere but a gym. So I've taught in healthcare settings, hospitals before, so I would consider that corporate. Even though I've taught in nonprofits, I would consider that corporate just because, again, it's outside of our traditional way of thinking of just teaching in a studio. Okay. And what I want to say to you, though, is there's been if you just Google Yoga Nidra plus benefits for PTSD, I did some of my papers in my master's program on just PTSD and Nidra. There's a huge amount. And Dr. Richard Miller, write his name down, he has a whole training called I Rest.
Okay.
And I think you might be really interested in, because he focuses a lot on trauma. So does Kamini, my teacher, but he is even more clinical. And if you might want to check his out and see if you're going to take her training or his training, because his might even be a little bit more geared. He's done so much with military and PTSD. Huge amount. He actually has contracts with the government, like they do his program. So I think you'd like to go down that path.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. My pleasure.
I wanted for you to define meditation.
It's a great question.
Yeah, can we touch on that a little bit too? Let's debunk.
Yes. So the way I preference it, because yoga teachers listening, we know that, meditation and the 8 limbs is after our one pointed focus, we're basically, there's no thought, right? So it's what you were talking about, where you experience time and space just came to, it stopped being linear, and you were just held in the always there now, which is really powerful, but there's no time associated with it. However, that's not what I'm teaching in my corporations, and really not what I'm even teaching in studio classes, because I meditate all the time and I don't get to that place always, if not even most of the time. So I'm more teaching our Western version of meditation, which is mindfulness meditation, where it's all these different types of meditation. It could be mindful movement meditation, where we're walking and we're solely focused on how our legs feel when we're walking. It could be, we have a candle and we have one pointed focus on the flame, and our thoughts go here. We bring our attention back to the flame. It could be journaling as meditation. It could be focusing on the breath. It could be sitting with your spouse back to back and feeling each other's breath going up and down your spine. It could be visualizing color, streaming through your body. So when I teach meditation, I'm teaching all these different ways to kind of have a one-pointed focus, but with a lot of grace. So when the thoughts go like this, because they always will, we just nicely notice, oh, hey, Shawn, you're thinking about what you're going to make your kids for dinner. Let's come back to the candle flame. Let's come back to the breath. Let's come back to the feelings in the palms. Yeah. So I think of meditation as with a lot of grace, and I really try to teach it as, let's focus on something: sensation, smell, breath, the ground. That's the way I teach it.
Yes. How do you approach? You've been doing this for many years. I'm a new teacher. What's your approach when it comes to meditation and religion?
That's a great question. I heard somebody, I love Carolyn, one of my teachers, like her books I always read. I've seen her in person, is Carolyn Mace, M-Y-S-S. I think I'm saying that right. And she does a beautiful job. I can't believe I can't even think of it because I've read it like 20 times. Oh, Anatomy of the Spirit. So she takes several major religions and she talks about how they're all intertwined based on the chakras, the 7 energy systems. But one thing that came to mind after you're done talking is I believe she says that prayer, so I'm associating prayer with Christianity when I say this, whether that's true or false, that's what's coming to my mind. Yeah. She says prayer is talking to God and meditation is receiving answers. And I thought that was a really beautiful way when you have those sort of questions, because you can be both. I think you can be both. You can be whatever religion you are and still meditate, because meditate does not have to have any association with any other religion. It can simply be our Western version of meditation, which is mindfulness meditation, just focusing on the breath, focusing on the candle flame.
Beautiful.
So that's one thing I want to expand on a little bit further that I've learned. It took me a while, and I think it's more of the last year, but I've learned so much to simplify and really just meet somebody where they're at and take what they're already working with and just going from there. So just wherever they're at, going from there. So meeting them at their comfort level. And that's why in the businesses, if you saw a class that I do, you'd be like, that's what you're doing? So basic, I guess. And first I was like, is this what I keep getting hired for? Like, it's these very simple chair classes. And at first it kind of blew my mind. Like, is this, I went through all this yoga education to be doing chair classes? But now I'm like, this is amazing. Like, I'm getting, nobody has to bring anything. They can just stay in their chair, do this class, and feel so good. And then if they want, they can go down their own path, of whatever it might open up for them. So now it's the coolest thing to me. But at first I really questioned it.
Yeah, that's awesome. So I know that you have, this baby, YTT for 2021, that's your baby for the year, right?
Yes.
Is there anything else new to expect from you in 2021?
Oh, that's a great question. What I'm going to do with that is when my first class graduates, so it'll be February 7th, they'll be graduating with their 20 hours. I'm going to offer to them a monthly program where if they want an accountability program that they can stay with me, and I'm going to have a set price. I think it's going to be $49 a month. And they're going to get so many offerings each month, a coaching session, templated workshops, ideas, motivation, so that we really have this coaching accountability program. So the people that feel like they want a little bit more, trying to think of the right word, just kind of accountability, somebody really guiding them along, they'll have this program that they can do. That's my other baby, but they're really going to go hand in hand. So I really feel like 2021, maybe 2022 is going to be all about training teachers to bring more yoga into the business world and all these different facets.
Yeah, it's beautiful. It's so needed. Is there anything else that you would like to add or discuss that perhaps we didn't touch on today?
Oh, thank you for asking. I would say that the best way, if you ever want to see what I'm up to, is probably my Instagram, which is Ms. MS Shawn Bradford. So MS SHAWN BRADFORD. So Miss Shawn, or not Miss, Ms. Shawn Bradford, because whatever my latest offering or my class sign up or the latest Teach Corporate Yoga class going on, I'll always have a link in my profile there. That's the social media that I keep most up to date. So that's the best way to find out just what's going on. If I have, a new Yoga Nidra on YouTube, I'll always announce it on Instagram that it's available.
Yes. Well, I subscribe to your YouTube channel, so.
Oh, cool. So you'll get it that way too. I'll have another one coming soon.
I do not want to miss those Yoga Nidras when they come in.
Yeah, you made my day with that. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, so thank you so much. Do you want to give out your website for the sign up for YTT, or is that something on your Instagram?
Yeah, I would just say go to my Instagram. And the reason I'm hesitating on that is my dear friend Stephanie right now, who's amazing, is in the process of redesigning my website. And it's not quite done yet. So when you go to my website, which is breatheandwork.com, we have a little website is getting redesigned. Okay. And then there's just a contact form to get a hold of me. So the very best way right now, especially to sign up for my Teach Corporate Yoga, is my Instagram, Miss MS Shawn Bradford.
Awesome. Well, I wish you the best on this program. I'm going to keep it on my back burner. So thank you so much for everything that you do for yoga teachers, for your students, for your clients.
Agnes, it is my pleasure. I was so thrilled to be invited on here, and I thank you so much for what you're doing and lifting all of us up. So thank you, and keep doing it.
Thank you for listening. Please visit the website at www.leveluptribes.com, and please subscribe to the podcast and share with your family and friends. Be sure to tune in to our next episode. Catch you all next time, my beloved tribes.